Oof, it is spicy in here. Hey everyone, Zian over here from Nintendo Life. So a few months ago, I was challenged by our good friend John Cartwright at Good Vibes Gaming to show off my 5 rarest video games. I didn't do it. I just didn't have the time. There was a lot of stuff going on. And then I thought about it the other day and was like, I never did that because John did a video about that on the Good Vibes Gaming channel. I believe Derek also did one as well, showing off his 5 rarest video games. But today I'm here to right my wrong and share with you the rarest games that I have in my collection. Now, I'm not going to be talking about any games that were specifically created like in a limited quantity, no like 5,000 or 10,000 quantities. I won't be showing off any limited run game stuff. I'll just be covering video games that had a standard release on Nintendo platforms. Strap in, plug in your Nintendo Cruisin' USA seatbelt, and we're not going to be talking about Cruisin' USA anymore in this video, but I hope you have it buckled. Now, I'm going to be doing these games in the order from least expensive to most expensive. And I'm not going to give off the prices because it just feels weird to be like, oh, this game is worth this much money. But the 5th most expensive Nintendo game that I own happens to be a platformer for the Nintendo 64 called Rocket Robot on Wheels. I have no idea when this game got expensive because I remember time and time again, I would talk to people about Rocket and they would be like, that game, you like that game? What? I think those people were just uneducated and were trying to sound cool. And it's like when you don't know something about something, some people just like, there's a defense mechanism where they just instantly insult it. And if you do that, you should try to stop doing that. It's unhealthy and it's not fair. Just don't do that. So many people did that with Rocket Robot on Wheels. So my mom and I, this is not the same version that I grew up with, but my mom and I actually dug this game out of a bargain bin along with Jet Force Gemini at our local Walmart in an actual bin full of Nintendo 64 games and PS1 and PS2 games. And I think we paid about 20 bucks for it. And I never got very far as a kid. My mom made it to way more worlds than I did. At the time, I loved the physics system. There's in the first world, the whole game is themed around an amusement park, but the first world definitely has an amusement park vibe. There's like a roller coaster customizer in there. There's clowns rolling around all over the place. It can be a little bit creepy, but there's also like these different vehicles that you can ride around in. There's lots of things to collect, and I really enjoyed my time with the game. It was a lot of fun to like ride around in. There was this like hot dog buggy that you could find in the first level, and you could ride around in the sand dunes. And I remember just like I said, the physics system was really interesting for its time. I hadn't really played anything else like it. The other cool thing about this is if we have any PlayStation fans out there, the team that made Infamous, Sly Cooper, Ghost of Tsushima, Sucker Punch, this was actually the first game that they ever worked on, and it was published by Ubisoft. You can see right here on the back is the good old Sucker Punch logo. Now, the strange thing with my copy of the game is I actually pieced this together. I bought the cartridge at some point, got the manual at the Midwest Gaming Classic in Wisconsin like years ago, and then I actually got this box there as well. But this box actually has a sticker on the back here. Like, I don't know how well you'll be able to see that. Maybe, yeah, if I catch the lighting just right, I think you can tell. But there's a sticker on here that has the game in English and in Spanish. And I'm thinking that I'm never going to take this off because I would probably destroy the box in turn. But underneath is probably just a standard box. I love this game. It's very unique. If you have a Nintendo 64 and you've never played it, the cartridge is not worth nearly as much as having the box and the manual and everything. Having this all together is really what adds it up and makes it expensive. But definitely give this game a chance. Maybe you have it on the shelf already and you've never played it. It has kind of a not so fair final boss fight, but I do think the rest of the game is worth diving into. There's a lot of really cool mechanics in here that you really don't see in other places on the N64. So if you like platformers, give this a shot. Even Nitro Rad really liked it a lot too. So maybe someday we'll get lucky and Sucker Punch will remake this game, or they'll remaster it for modern platforms. Maybe we'll get it on Nintendo Switch Online. That'd be super cool. Sony, Nintendo, if I ever get to interview someone from Sucker Punch, that will be my first question. Where's Rocket? Now, objectively speaking, the second most expensive Nintendo video game that I own in my collection is Solitarobo Red the Hunter. Now, I sadly have never played this game. I do have aspirations of playing it someday, so I can't actually tell you how it is or not. But what I can say is that the combat is incredibly varied. It has like flight-based sections. It looks like there may be some like platforming or like 3D action like combat sections. I was working at GameStop at the time that it came out, and while I wanted to buy it, I just never was able to. The back of the box here also tells me that you can customize your game with your own pictures using the Nintendo DSi and the DSi XL's camera. I don't know if that would work on the Nintendo 3DS. I'd be curious to try it, and if you've messed around with that, let me know in the comments below. But like I said, I've never played this game, so I really can't tell you a whole lot about it. I do know that there is not really, I don't want to say it's a spiritual successor, because I think it plays fairly different, but there is a game that takes place in this universe on the Nintendo Switch, and I'm just going to look it up. So the game is actually called Fuga Melodies of Steel, and it seems like an Advance Wars style tactical RPG. I have it on my Switch eShop wish list. I've had it there for a long time, and I have a lot of tactical RPGs in there, so I haven't bought it yet. But if you played Solitaire Robo, or even if you just like tactical RPGs, I would definitely look into it. I don't know if it's a quality game or not. This was a game that we actually never got to review for Nintendo Switch. It looks like it really flew under the radar. So if you've played it, let us know what you think of it down below. I think that'd be super helpful. Now this game, my third most expensive game. I've had this game for years, since I was a little kid. I don't know what allowed me, like how I was able to buy this game, because it has some pretty graphic moments. It's probably the rating. Now that I'm looking at it again, it has to be the rating. This is a Go-Go Hyper Grind. So this is a skateboarding game developed exclusively for the Nintendo GameCube, but this is published by Atlas, the animation company that worked on Ren and Stimpy. Are the team that did like the animations for this game. And it plays a lot like a Tony Hawk skateboarding game where you're pressing buttons to grind on rails and using the L and R buttons to like spin and do flip tricks. And it plays basically, it's just like a crazy Tony Hawk style game with like a cartoony art style instead. And it's just incredibly over the top. It has tons of different game modes. There's multiplayer to it. There's a full-on campaign. And I think one of the biggest mechanics of the game, if I think back, was like you're able to injure yourself for like points, or you can change up, like you can basically create combos by causing harm to your character. Because I think the gimmick or the story of the game is that you're trying to like try out for a TV show in the world of the game. I don't remember exactly how that works out, but basically like you might run into a hammer and it might crush you and turn your character into kind of like this comical like springy thing, or you might start yourself on fire and then you might be able to go and bounce into a stack of dynamite and then it might hurl you across the map into a secret area. You know, there were lots of little like fun little things that you could discover in the game, and I think it's pretty wild to see how expensive it is now, but I do think it's not cool that video games are expensive. I just wish that they were all the same price so that way everybody could have them, you know. There's a lot of like really bad games out there that are expensive, very wrongly so, just for the fact that they're rare. But this is kind of a unique experience. I don't think it's not worth the amount. Like the experience is not worth that. But if you can find a copy on the cheap, or if you have a friend that owns it and you've never played it, like make them bust it out and play that game next time you have like a game night with some friends. Go-Go Hyper Grind is weird, but I don't think you're going to walk away from it disappointed. It's very strange. It has some questionable moments for a kid to be playing it. Like, I think the teen rating I think they got very lucky with that. Now, my last two most expensive Nintendo games that I own, I definitely lucked out on. But this second one, I kind of lucked out in a different way, in the fact that it was a lot of right time, right place. I'll just get it out of the way. This game it's Chrono Trigger, complete in box for the Super Nintendo. It's a little dusty because I keep it up on the shelf there all the time. Chrono Trigger is one of those games that I always wanted to play growing up. I remember reading, I guess I didn't read them very well because I've talked about this on the channel before, but I remember reading like issues of Game Informer or something like that, where they showed off screenshots of the cutscenes from Chrono Trigger on the PlayStation 1, because that version in Final Fantasy Chronicles, they added cutscenes to the game. They showed off screenshots of it in an issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly or Game Informer or something like that. And I remember seeing those and thinking like, what kind of Dragon Ball like episode or movie is this that I'm missing out on? And I was always curious about this game. And I eventually got the PlayStation 1 version and played it a bit, but I just didn't really dive into it. But it was always one of those games that I wanted to play as a kid. It eluded me forever, but unfortunately it came out like when I was like 3 years old, so I didn't have a chance of like ever buying it, and family didn't have it, and I never found it anywhere. But so it was always a big goal for me to like get the Super Nintendo copy. And so what I did though was I ended up finding the loose cartridge at GameStop for maybe $70, I think it was. And then I ended up buying the box from the game store that I used to work at, because somebody traded in just the game and the box. And so I bought the box, and then we sold the cartridge on its own. And then a friend of mine that owns a video game store actually hit me up, or we were talking. I sent him a list of things that I was looking for, box and manual wise, and he had the manual and the maps for Chrono Trigger. And so I'll pull those out and show them off, because they're in super nice shape. So you can see, like, I have the game has the like the plastic bag and the dust cover, and then here's the manual. And I don't remember what I paid for them, but this game is worth way more than what I paid back in the day. And I think that's kind of like a common trend. If you've been collecting retro games for a long time, a lot of your stuff has probably gone up in value. But so it actually came with, I think, 2 posters here. One of these is it shows, like, you know, maps of like the different eras, and then I think this one is also a poster if memory serves me correct. And yeah, so this actually has the cover of the game, and like, you know, uncut, uncropped or whatever, if you will. And then the other side just shows more screenshots of the different eras and the maps. The Nintendo DS version of this game, actually the first print of it, which I actually have on the shelf over here too, has it came with a poster as well of this cover of the game, I think, or which I guess is not a cover, it's a piece of art. I'll just grab it quick to show you. But not every version of Chrono Trigger on DS came with that poster. Here's the DS version of the game, which is actually how I played the game. Oh no! And I was wrong about the poster. It actually is, unless it's double-sided. No, it's not. This poster is basically the same poster that of the cover, and I just ripped it a little bit. Go me. Xian, you must be careful with your Chrono Trigger goods. I care about them deeply. Yeah, so this is the Nintendo DS poster. I was wrong. It is different than the other art that I was talking about. And then this is the Super Nintendo one. So we'll take a look at both of them. Oh, and they're pretty close. The Super Nintendo poster just has the logo and says Akira Toriyama. It gives him a credit down there on the bottom. And then yeah, here's the DS version. So like I said, for the longest time I played a bit of Chrono Trigger on PlayStation 1 through the Chronicles collection, and that came with Final Fantasy IV, which is actually one of my favorite RPGs. And I just didn't really fall into it. I played it a bit on DS when it first came out. And then about a year ago, I finally fell just headfirst into Chrono Trigger and played through it all the way through on my DS and loved it to bits. And now it's a game that I will never get rid of, unless if I'm on my deathbed and need money, I guess. If someone notices that, hit me up about Chrono Trigger, I guess. But otherwise, no, this will be a game that I keep for the rest of my life. Like, if you have not played Chrono Trigger, definitely play it. It's you can't get it on Switch yet. I really hope it comes to Switch in like an HD 2D version someday, or a full remaster, or even just the ROM playable on Switch would be really nice. Otherwise, you can get it on mobile and Steam for pretty cheap. And I can't recommend Chrono Trigger enough. It really is one of the best RPGs out there. The story is so grand, and it tells it so well, and the characters are so lovable that you'll fall in love with it. And now finally, the most expensive game that I own, that's Nintendo related, has been staring us in the face this whole time. It's been hiding right back there. Isn't that crazy? I still can't believe I own a copy of Earthbound. So earlier this year, I put together a documentary all about Earthbound. I talk about it every chance I get. If you haven't watched it yet, please take this opportunity to add it to your watch later list, or watch it now. I don't care when you watch it. Just please watch it if you've never played Earthbound, or if you have. I don't care. Watch the video once. I poured my everything into that video, and it was really kind of my bosses to buy a complete in-box copy of the game to sort of, I guess, thank me and like commemorate the event. And it's, you know, I've talked about this before in a different video, and it's really hard for me to like tell you, you know, why they bought that and stuff. To me, it just it made me understand. The more I think about it, I understand that it meant a lot to them that I poured my everything into this video. And it's strange because I just made that video because I wanted to make something super cool I could, you know, use my creative brain for and do something good for people. But it's really special and really nice that they felt so strongly about that project. And I just can't thank them enough. It was incredibly sweet, and it's super cool because I love this. I have a copy of Earthbound now. Look at the back of the box. It's got like the clay versions of Ness and Paula and Pooh. It's so cool to have this sort of like piece of history in my collection now, because just kind of like Chrono Trigger, Earthbound is one of those games that I've wanted to own for years, but because it came out in 1995, I believe, I was 3 years old when that game came out. It was also just one that, you know, I never really had the chance to kind of see it on the shelf. I did buy Super Nintendo games brand new, but this was probably still like the late 90s, and it was a lot of like player's choice stuff. Like my copy of Donkey Kong Country 2 that I grew up with was the player's choice copy, and I remember buying that at Walmart, probably discounted, you know, because it was like the old stock, I guess, if you will. You know, like I came into the Super Nintendo at the end of its life. We got given it as a hand-me-down by my relatives with Final Fantasy II. Thank you so much, Nick and Marcel and Sarah and Michelle. Thank you all so much for letting me have that. But you know, like Earthbound was one of those games that I've heard the stories now of like people finding this in the bargain bins, and it's crazy that it's so expensive now. And now I don't ever have to worry about like finding a copy of it. I have it, and it's lovely. The cartridge is in incredibly great condition. The strategy guide as well. Like I have not flipped through this enough yet, but I've actually been replaying the game ever since I started like making the documentary. I like replayed the game a bunch on Switch Online to get capture footage, and I'm about halfway through now. But I really should, like, as I like go back and like to the game again, I should use this strategy guide now that I have it. And it's so like full of life. They like Nintendo and their team really put so much effort into making this strategy guide unique and fun for the player. And the cool thing, a lot of like old books smell like gross, like basements and stuff, but this one kind of smells nice. If you weren't aware, the reason why the Earthbound box is so big is because every single version of Earthbound came with the strategy guide in hopes that players wouldn't give up on the game and that they would, you know, have a memorable experience and would want to play more RPGs. Because at the time, Americans weren't as like well versed in RPGs and didn't know how to play them, and probably gave up easily because there were so many like combat mechanics and things to learn, and it was easy to get lost in certain games as well. And you know, RPGs nowadays have gotten a lot better with kind of holding your hand and leading you in the right direction, but back in the day, it was not as easy. But so they like went like above and beyond to make this incredible strategy guide. Here's a picture of what looks like a plumber named Mario. I think it's actually just this is a construction worker that you find in the desert. It's not Mario, as much as you may want it to be. They just put so much love and care into this guide, and I'm so happy to have this. I can stop looking every time I go to a thrift store. I've had the purple Nintendo spine of this guide with Earthbound up top and the red logo like down at the bottom. I've had that like seared into my memory. Whenever I would go to a thrift store and I remembered, I would go look at the kids' book section and I would scan those paperback big kids books for this guide. And I did find a few Nintendo Power guides over the years by doing that, but I never found the Earthbound one. And now I just, like I said, now I just don't have to. And I'm just so freaking thankful. So thank you. Thank you once again for gifting me this guide if my bosses happen to be watching. Hey, you know what? I've not scratched all of these scratch and sniffs, so I will scratch a new one for you. I'm going to close my eyes and just... I don't remember where all of them are, so I'm just gonna point at one, like a random, like, what's this one? Hey, it's the fire dog. I have not smelled that one yet. I've only smelled the monkey, which smells like artificial banana. Get a whiff of this hot dog. Hold the mustard, then your nose. If only this video was in 4D, you too could join me on this journey. Ugh. This one kind of smells a bit like, it reminds me of, I had some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle like trading cards or something that were scratch and sniffs as a kid, and I think I had one that was pizza, And that's definitely what I get from this one. Yeah, it's not good. It's strong, but I don't like it. But there it is. That's it. Those be my most expensive Nintendo video games. My rarest Nintendo video games. Let me know in the comments down below if you happen to own any of these games yourself, or let me know what the rarest video game is that you have. Maybe you don't even determine rarity by the value. Maybe you have something ultra special that is autographed, or is a more limited edition thing, or a misprint, or something strange, or maybe you just have something that was given to you, and for that, you know, it may not be rare, but it holds value to you, personal, sentimental value. You know, like Earthbound's expensive, but it also, like, it has such a sweet story behind it now that, like, I'm gonna get buried with that game. And of course, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this, then why don't you click that subscribe button before it becomes incredibly rare. And oh my gosh, where'd the subscribe button go? Oh no, it's out of print. It's actually subscribe button 2.0 is now available, and you can't get the subscribe button 1 anymore. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Zian from Nintendo Life. Stay safe out there, and we will see you all next time.